Welcome to the club, 'cause you're that kind of nerd.
Hello and welcome to the club. This is That Kind of Nerd, a show where we talk about the nerdy things we're passionate about and judge each other on what we bring to the table. And oh, I will be such a harsh judge. I am your judge and your host this week. You can call me Dr. X. I am joined by my friends Rocky Road and Paddington Bear.
What up?
I'll let you two decide who's who.
Hello there.
For real, I am Brian Thornton. I'm joined by Josh Burns and CJ Mellon. And today, I'm hoping we have a good crop of topics to discuss. As, like I said before, I shall judge harshly. So,
sounds good. Just for the record, Josh is Paddington Bear because he's soft, cuddly, and adorable.
That's me.
He is adorable. In fact, he is still Little Bear on my phone, I believe. One of you is Little Bear, and one of you is Angry Bear, if I recall correctly. All right. So, that being said, each of us have brought a topic to the table to discuss in the nerdy world, something maybe we've experienced this week or saw on the news. And let's just dive right in. Do we want to let CJ go first today because he was host last week? Or Josh, do you want to just go ahead and take the right to go first again?
I mean, I'm ready to go. CJ's ready to go. Fine, I don't care. Flip for it. Fucking, we can Rochambeau, whatever.
Okay.
Or you call it.
Yeah, you're the host, man. You got to figure this out.
In order to go first, answer me these questions three. No, let's have CJ go first because I feel like he's been chomping at the bit to talk about his topic today. CJ, what do you have for us today?
I have been tinkering around with the That Kind of Nerd website, thatkindofnerd.com. And part of it was I wanted to include a little bit of an intro section to people to get to know the show. They've never listened to it. And it included a couple episodes, but one of them was a clip from episode 142 called Getting to Know Us Better, in which we talked about our 5 favorite movies and our 5 favorite albums, right? The episode clip is available on the website. You can even listen to the albums that we have on there. But it reminded me of something, which is while Josh is really into music, I know Brian necessarily not a whole lot. We're all into movies, but there's one other thing that I think unites us as a nerd culture and as a trio here, and that is our love for video games that put us into a nerddom. So if we've got the album that made you, if we've got the movies that made you, I'm kind of curious about what is the video game that had the biggest impact on your nerdy life.
So I'm going to stop you right there and give you 2 points for referencing an old episode of Takan. An extra point for referencing the episode of the 5 movies, which is what me and my wife bonded over while we were dating. So,
wow.
If you recall correctly, Grow Old With You from The Wedding Singer was the song she walked down the aisle in, and we bonded over that film because it was one of my top 5. So,
yes, it
CJ,
is.
pulling out ahead. Go ahead. Favorite video games that made us? Is that
yeah?
The
like
question?
the video game that had the biggest impact on you.
One game.
No,
is it one
we can
multiple?
We can do multiple, but if all you have is one, that's fine.
All right. Josh, are you just digging right into Pong, or what's what's your story?
I guess I look at it in a couple different ways, right? So if it's about kind of when I think about video games that made me, right, that was, as a kid, it was all about like the Mario Brothers games and Tecmo Bowl, but like the game that I probably spent the most time on and played kind of collaboratively with friends was the first few Gran Turismo games. But we would stay up all night getting the licenses, getting gold on the licenses so we can get the special cars. And at one point in my apartment, we me and 2 buddies, we ran the 24-hour marathon rally. I mean, we played Gran Turismo for days and days and days and days. And it's just like it's one of those things that I'll never forget the running the super license tests over and over and over and over until we got every turn right, every line right, every braking section right, all that stuff. Trying trying to like catch naps. We had to make up like a schedule for naps and eating when we were running the marathon race. You know what I mean? Because you got to plan that out. You can't just willy-nilly a 24-hour race. That's kind of crazy. So like that's, if I'm thinking about it, when I was very young, it was the Mario Brothers games and Tecmo Bowl, and then later it became about Gran Turismo, and the most fun I've ever had playing any game was Tony Hawk 3.
As a person who has challenged me in the past, I'm surprised you have not mentioned Mortal Kombat 2 yet.
It's just not like it's fun, but like,
right.
You know, I mean, my opponents can only throw so many controllers.
I can only dominate so hard.
That's right.
Yes. So really, it's all about the Gran Turismo for you, the original for PlayStation, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah, and it was really all about the bonding. I mean, it wasn't even, you know, that the game was so amazing. It was, and it was groundbreaking for when it was and what it was. But like, it was just me and two buddies, and you know, it'd be like after work on the weekends, and you know, we'd be up until 5-6 a.m. playing the game, sleep for a few hours, go to work, you know, meet back at my parents' house. I'm still living in my parents' house. I was like 18. And, you know, we'd stop at Blockbuster and get a couple of like UFC VHS tapes and grab some food and, you know, go to town. You know what I mean? We'd watch the fights and play the games, and that'd be it. I mean, games have always been that for me, though. Like, more fun in playing with someone than exploring the game, beating a game. I don't care about beating a game. I'll beat a game. It's whatever. But like, the games that I've always enjoyed the most were games where we were working towards a goal together. So, again, Gran Turismo. I think of the same thing with like the EA Sports Fight Night games, Tony Hawk games, like that kind of stuff. It was always me and a buddy or two, taking turns at the control, so to speak, so that we could, you know, achieve a goal, beat the game, set a score, you know, win fights online, whatever it was.
Yeah, and you mentioned something interesting there, Josh. Like, I think out of the three of us, I'm the most avid gamer out of the three of us. So you asked that question. I really quick wrote down like a list of 7 games.
Yep.
All right. But yeah, Josh, you mentioned something interesting about it being tied to the memories, right? And like,
that's right.
Even though I'm probably the most avid gamer among the three of us, and I wrote down like 7 games the moment CJ even mentioned the topic, the games I wrote down are not. If this was a different worded question, is like, what are your favorite games?
Right. Yes.
I don't know. If it would be the same list, right?
Right.
I think some of these would be on there, but probably not the same. When we're talking about like the games that made us, right? Like, you know, and I have them kind of broken up by like era, like young Brian, elementary school Brian.
Yeah.
Played Zelda all the time. Didn't know what the hell I was doing. I never beat Zelda until I was a teenager, but I still enjoyed the hell out of it. And
I still run it once a year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be me and my brother, right? And us trying to find the next dungeon, because you had that giant map that
Nintendo Power.
Nintendo Power. You were trying so hard to utilize that and not like, oh my God, I went from dungeon 1 to dungeon 6 and now I'm screwed and I don't have that particular item. I don't have the boomerang to get through this room. Like, gives me agita to this day, but I still love that game. I'll still play that game. The 2 from young Brian's life that really sticks out to me is technically both arcade games, but one of them was on the NES, and it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 and X-Men the arcade game, especially the X-Men arcade game. I don't know if you guys remember this arcade machine. Yep. It was based off of a pilot that never became a series, but my brother and I loved that pilot of the cartoon. It was called Pride of the X-Men. And it was literally like a couple years before the X-Men cartoon that we all know and love did this pilot, and then they did a game around it, and you had Nightcrawler, Dazzler, Colossus, Wolverine, and Cyclops. And you could get one of those giant machines, and it could be like, you could fill it up with all 6 people, right? And it was just those side-scroller beat-em-ups that, you just kind of turn your brain off and you just play. And I love that game so much. And I love that style of games. And I remember vividly my brother and I, every time we would see it in the arcade, it was in the dollar theater for a while, just begging our parents for money to play it. Never beating it because we never had enough money until we went to one of those like kids castle things where all the arcade games were free. Yeah. And we spent all night on that thing because we were finally going to beat it because we didn't have to pay money for it.
I'm trying to remember too. And it's either that X-Men game or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We played that at your bachelor party with your brother. And your brother was just pumping quarters into anyone who would stand at the cabinet, being like, I don't care if you died. Here you go. Keep going. Let's go. We're almost at the end. Just keep moving with it.
My brother, the first thing he said to me at our bachelor party, we went to the barcade for my bachelor party, which was great. Because you get to drink and play video games. It's like the best thing.
That's why I can't remember which game we played.
The first thing he said to me was, we're playing X-Men, we're playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Those are the two games we're going to play. We're going to beat them tonight. And yeah, we just pumped those machines full of coins until we got to the end. And that was a lot of fun too. And this, just kind of going back around, like those were games that I loved growing up. Teenage years, it was all about PlayStation for me. And it was Final Fantasy VII, which is one of my favorite games to this day. But it was the first like really intensive RPG game that I ever played, that I actually like got tied to the story and got emotional when things happened. And my brother and I were playing it. And I remember the first time we popped it in, because we played it for like 3 hours and then realized we didn't have a memory card because we had just got this PlayStation. I didn't know you needed a memory card because our last system was a Genesis. You didn't.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
So we had to leave it on overnight, and then we ran to the Blockbuster and picked up a memory card the next day. Also in that same time frame, Tekken 2 was a big part of my life.
Great game.
Great game. And a big memory tied to that is I just remember I had a really bad day at school. Bullies were not being kind that day. And I remember my father, who's probably listening to this right now, I don't know if he remembers this. He stayed up with me all night and played Tekken with me. He was not very good. He would just spam the one move over and over again. He picked the Bruce Lee character.
Right.
He spammed his fan kick. And because he was just doing that move, I could never counter. He was always winning. And he, to this day, will say he's like the best at this game. Dad, you're not. I'm sorry. But he stayed up all night with me and played that game and then went to work the next morning. And that always was a big memory for me.
That's awesome.
And then finally, Super Smash Brothers Melee. Which is where I acquired all of my Super Smash Brothers skills. Played it a lot in college. In fact, that is the game that got me my core group of friends in college. Because we would, in between classes, be in the common cafeteria study room, and we would just be playing Super Smash and just passing controllers back and forth for hours in between classes instead of doing probably what we were supposed to be doing, which was studying. And I actually skipped classes for Super Smash Brothers gameplay. And that was always a fun memory for me. But then, I acquired all these skills and now no one will play with me. So that's a cross I have to bear. When you started talking, I thought I would have a different list, and then you actually posed the question, and this is the list that I got. I probably could, give me a couple more minutes. I could probably think of more, but those are the things that stick out to me. So I would say, those are probably the games that quote unquote made me.
Yeah. It's funny the way that you just kind of broke it down, though, where you're like early childhood Brian, teenage, and like adult, and it got me to thinking too. And I thinking about this question, there were some obvious ones. So first one is just to Josh's point, a yearly run of the Ocarina of Time. Right, that is my Zelda game that I annually run. It's on the Switch right now, and the reason behind that was not so much because it's a great game, because it is. But it was the game that I could play by myself and no one would bother me. I have 3 brothers, right? So when we played
5 in 1993, Jesus.
So hang on, let me just get this straight. Josh and I have memories with friends and other people in our lives. Your first game is leave me the fuck alone.
Fuck alone.
I don't want anybody near me. Screw all of you. This is my game.
I can tell you with the brothers that I had, right, when you played a video game, it was like, when you open up a dog treat bag and your dog is like, whoa, who's got treats? As soon as you heard a game console turn on, it was, well, let's play something together, right? So getting to do the Ocarina of Time by myself, getting to solve puzzles by myself, getting to use the first-person controller. Ooh, right? I got to use the blue controller. Not the one that came from, like, what would be the modern equivalent now of AliExpress Kmart. You got to use the good controller. And it taught me problem solving. It taught me patience. It also taught me, hey, I get pretty angry when I get frustrated, right? So it was one of those games that kept me cool, calm, and collected, and it was mine. I got to enjoy it. It was my game, right? Then it was Halo 2, right? In high school, Halo 2 was the game. We had LAN parties. I remember hanging out with my buddy Dan, going to his house relentlessly and playing LAN connections of Halo 2 maps and playing with the plasma swords, the whole 9 yards. That game got me through the high school. And then it would have been the Elder Scroll Saga as the rest of it, right? I would have tracked my life, my life through the Elder Scroll Saga, with the exception of the fact that Skyrim has been the only thing for 10 years, so I can't track my life anymore on Elder Scrolls.
No.
So it's
you
the
can
Spider-Man.
track your life through the many re-releases. Didn't VR come out recently?
Yes, but what it is, Brian,
I want to take away points from you because of Skyrim. I'm just going to say that.
No. Hold on. What I do track my life through now, what I do look back and I look at the way that video games impacted my life, it's the Spider-Man games. So it was Maximum Carnage on the Sega Genesis, right? It was the N64 Spider-Man game, which was awesome and introduced me to a lot of alternate suits and other like personifications of Spider-Man. And then you had the movies, and that was all the way from N64, GameCube, all the way through now to Xbox and now the PS5 with the Insomniac versions of these games. I mean, Spider-Man is the game that I could just spend all the time web swinging, getting zen, just having a blast. Sam, listen to Bruce Campbell narrating like 4 of those 5 games. It is the touchstone that when I want to start playing a video game, if I haven't played in too long, I can always grab a Spider-Man game, feel like I'm back in whatever age I want to be in, because there was always a touch point for me to reference. So the Spider-Man games are definitely the thing in which I chronicle my life through when it comes to video games.
As a man who is currently wearing Venom socks, I award you 4 points because apparently you know how to suck up to your judge.
I have to say, before you award any points, I do want to say that because last week was our first week back, I wanted to give you guys a break and not correct all your grammar problems. But I can't. I got it. CJ, saying that you relentlessly went to someone's house.
Yes, that's not okay. No grammatical sense whatsoever.
Relentless is like oppressively constant.
Correct. Were
you oppressively going to his house?
Well, I mean, we have to ask Dan. I don't know if I was ever really invited or if I just showed up.
I'm putting it out there. Like, I gave you a week off.
Josh,
yeah.
You don't need to apologize. And 2 points for correcting CJ's grammar. 4 points to Josh for eliciting the route that I took for my my games that shaped us via.
-2 for CJ saying that Brian came up with it I was like, I just said that.
For linking that to core memories. So thank you for that, Josh. I think that's. I mean, does anybody else have anything to add on this topic? I think we've. Do you have a good enough list, CJ? Do you want to type that up on the site?
No, we can definitely put that on the site. And more importantly, I want to hear from the listeners. What were the games that shaped them? Right, the games that made you. I'm curious to see that list because I know we've got some eclectic. Gamers out there, as well as we have different generation gaps listening. So some people are going to be like, yeah, I started with the PS3. I'm like, no, I can't deal with this. So
we have people who started with the PS3 listening to this show.
We do have people who started with the PS3.
Your children notwithstanding.
Not my children. Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
nor Josh's children.
Nor Josh's
They
children.
don't count.
Correct.
And they didn't start with a PS3.
I was about to say. Start with what? PS2 probably?
No, they started with an NES. Super NES.
There you go. All right, that makes sense. All right. Well, CJ, thank you very much for that topic. I've already awarded the points, so I'm not going to award any bonus points because you brought a topic, because that's the concept of the show. But with that, so we can turn it over to Joshua. What have you brought to the table, as they say?
Well, I figured I'd get maybe a more thought-provoking topic than last
Let's talk
week.
about cryptocurrency. Let's do it, Josh.
Shut
Let's just
up.
lean right into it.
Josh, plus 1 point for acknowledging your shortcomings last week. Continue.
With the passing of Philip Baker Hall last week, I started thinking about kind of my favorite character actors, and he, Philip Baker Hall, not one of my favorite character actors, was did play Senator Hunt in the West Wing, and had some other roles that were memorable for me, but not doesn't make my list. And I have now kind of made my own list, and it's way too long, as you could imagine. But I thought maybe we could each give, let's say, 5-ish favorite character actors, and I like anything else. I know that we all know what a character actor is, but it just to qualify, right? We are talking about a supporting actor. These are people who you would not consider a leading person, man or woman. And there are some women that character actors that I feel very strongly about. However, I feel much more strongly about the men that made this list. So I'm going to have to go with 5 of these. I mean, it's probably 20 dudes deep. Probably one woman will make the list, but this is I have what I have, and we can, Brian, in whatever order you like. We can, whether we go kind of round robin or
I think maybe we each give one, and then maybe discuss would probably be a good idea. Unless CJ, are there objections?
No,
I don't care if there are objections. Let's move on. So. Josh, it's your topic. Would you like to start?
Yeah, I'll start. And I'm going to skip the first name on the list because one of you two is going to say it, so I can bank that. Walton Goggins is right up there for me. I can't recall a role where I've seen him where I didn't love him in the role. Whether he was good guy or bad guy, it doesn't matter. Anytime I see him, sign me up. I'm going to watch it. He's always fantastic. And I thought kind of in a really surprising way stole the show for me in The Hateful Eight. He was really good in a Tarantino flick, which I wasn't expecting.
I do want to make sure that Walton Goggins would be on my list as well. So plus 1 point for agreeing with me. And I think I got introduced to Walton Goggins through The Shield, and he is. I know that's a chickless show, and it's very much about him, but he carries that show a couple times for me. And so whenever I see, he's one of those characters. Whenever I see him, I'm like, oh, even if this movie sucks, I'm going to like him. And I think when you're a character actor, the way character actors are, that's the feeling that they invoke, right? Whenever I see this person, at least I know I'm going to get a certain level out of that person.
Yeah, or you're going to get a certain quirk or a certain look or a certain something, right? I think that's the thing about great character actors is that no matter what the role is, they're going to bring their certain something to that role.
Right. Absolutely. Walton Goggins, absolutely on my list as well. My
go-to character actor, right, used to be Sam Rockwell because he was always that guy. But then, of course, he got an Oscar. He's won the acclaim. He's no longer that guy anymore.
He's still a character actor.
He's still a character actor.
Characterize him as a character actor, and so he is.
He was my favorite go-to because no one really knew him, but now he's got it. So Frank Whaley, and I really hope I'm pronouncing the last name.
Yeah,
is
Frank Whaley.
My favorite character actor right now. And as a matter of fact, I annually tweet out, we need to appreciate this man more, right? Because he's been in a lot of things. He's always spectacular.
You know what I think of when I think of Frank Whaley? Broken Arrow.
Yes. No, you don't.
I love Broken Arrow. That is one of my favorite.
You think about not. Do they speak English in what? You don't think of Pulp Fiction?
He was great in Pulp Fiction, but I didn't see Pulp Fiction until well into my 20s. But I saw Broken Arrow. I had that shit on VHS. I used to watch that all the time. It was one of my favorite action movies for a very long time, and he's great in it. He's wonderful. I loved his performance, and I love that movie unabashedly. I don't care. Judge me.
I mean, what a great, and I think it's the scumbag roles that he plays that I'm like, this is excellent, right? Like Luke Cage, right? He played the detective in Luke Cage. He was just, what a scumbag. He was in Sneaky Pete. He's been in a ton of stuff.
He's been in a lot of things, right?
But yeah, I like him very much. It's good.
He plays the role of usually someone who's a little bit like mentally unbalanced and sometimes teeters on to, oh my God, I feel so bad for that guy, or that guy is fucking unhinged. And that's why I love him.
The episode of House he was in, where he was the mirror patient, right?
Yes, he smells like dung.
Where he just reflected the strongest personality in the room.
And again,
it was great.
What fucking talent to do that, because he's got to do that for every person he ran into, and he did it so well. So Frank Whaley is a top of my list, honestly.
That's a really good call.
Plus 1 point for allowing me to talk about Broken Arrow. Thank you. So I started feverishly Googling it and just, who's considered a character actor, right? Because, I want to make sure that, and I started feverishly writing down names and just confirming with this list. Okay, is this a person? And I was so happy to see on multiple lists, so you cannot fight me on this. J.K. Simmons is an amazing character actor.
He's the name I left off because I knew.
You knew I'd say
he was my next pick. He was my next pick.
Yeah, well, Brian, you go and then I'll start fawning all over him.
Do I need to say more than J. Jonah Jameson, right? Like, and I know Whiplash, and I know
that's where I was.
This is the thing, though. Like, he's another guy. Like, he is always great. He elevates everything he's in, and I think when you go in and I'll let you two talk about Whiplash because I don't have as much of a tie to it as you two do.
No, it's great, but that's not what I'm going to talk about at all.
Well, I'll let
CJ
talk about Whiplash because I know how he feels about that movie. But when I think J. Jonah Jameson, I think J.K. Simmons. He codified that role. He made it so that no one can fill his shoes to the point where they don't even bother trying. They're like, why should we even try? They didn't even have the character in 4 films. And then when they did bring the character back, they said, we got to give it back to JK. That's how good he is. And everything he does, he is amazing in. So, Josh, what movie do you think about when you think J.K. Simmons?
I think about Oz first. And then, honestly, I loved him in The Accountant. I thought he was really great.
Just in general, it's an underrated film.
Right, but then, you can't discount. He is one of the absolute great animated voiceovers
yes.
of our generation. Phineas and Ferb to start, but he Kung Fu Panda. He did
Yellow M&M. He's the voice of the Yellow M&M.
He is the voice of the Yellow M&M.
Like,
listen, The Simpsons, American Dad, right? He did. There was something else.
Invincible,
like BoJack Horseman. Oh, Invincible. Thank you. That's what I was thinking.
Yes, Omni-Man.
But here's a guy that's been on, I mean, years of Law and Order, right? He's just kind of done everything. 222 credits to his name, and when I see him in the cast list, I think this is going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the movie sucks, he's going to be good.
Well,
It's like
that's the funny thing. Being the Ricardos came out, and a lot of people did not care for that film, but everybody's critique is J.K. Simmons is great.
Right.
Yeah, you see, he was Commissioner Gordon in
Justice League. He
right,
was a good commish.
Great, good Commissioner Gordon.
Yep.
Wish he was in a better film, but you know.
I have I still have a list of things, so this is really tough to narrow it down, but I'm gonna go for the next one is Margot Martindale.
Laura said that's exactly what Laura said.
Really?
Now, the problem is I have too many from The West Wing on here.
Right, because I mean the West
so
Wing is full of that, right?
Well, so I just eliminated them all.
The Sorkin players can do, but I, again, anytime she's in there, she's either the down to earth person who's going to guide you through it, or the woman who's going to destroy your life, but she's going to do it with a smile, right? And she's taking you down any rabbit hole that she can, and her and Sneaky Pete is the most recent thing that I've been watching with her, and she is just amazing to watch, because you can see her a lot.
You buried the lead with her. You really did.
Well, that's just the last one I watched. What is the best performance for Margot Martindale for you?
It has to be either Instant Family or Justified.
Yes, we know you hated Instant Family.
But look, as in Justified as Mags Bennett, she was spectacular, right? She's just connected to all these other, and I'm like, I love her. She's amazing. And there's just, I kind of dismissed her because I have too many big screen names to go with any of the small screen names. She'd be up there.
We could probably talk about this all day. So I want to rapid fire a couple people.
Yep.
And I'll let you guys rapid fire a couple people too, and then we can kind of move on.
Josh, do you mind if I go first? Because I know you'll have the better people than me.
Okay. So, you know what, CJ? You get plus 1 point for recognizing that I'm better than you. Go ahead.
All right. I got Stephen Root, not only Office Space, but Boardwalk Empire, everything he ever shows up in, King of the Hill, he's amazing.
Coen Brothers.
Yep. Tom Wilkinson, I mean, not only is the man in everything, he's a goddamn chameleon. He can do whatever he wants to do. Love him or hate him, weird roles are weird roles. Luis Guzman is always hilarious. They mention him in Community. He shows up. He embraces the bit. I think he's fantastic. And then CCH Pounder, because you mentioned The Shield, she is fantastic in anything that she ever puts her mind to. And then I'm done.
She was really good in The Shield. All right, so let me just, I'll rapid fire, and then we'll end with Josh, since it is Josh's topic. When I think character actors, I also think of those actors who are like, oh, hey, that guy, he was in that movie, right?
Yep.
Yes.
And when I think of that guy, I think of James Cromwell. You'll know him best as Babe, the farmer in Babe, saying that'll do, pig. He's in everything. He's in Star Trek. He's in iRobot. Always great in everything that he's in. And he's always one of those, oh yeah, that guy is great. I have Kristen
Also West Wing.
Also West Wing. I have Kristen Chenoweth.
Yeah, he's the real gangly dude, right?
Yes.
He was Minority Report.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have Kristen Chenoweth on my list. I think anything that she's in, she's a
great.
delight. She sticks with musicals, she sticks with comedy, she knows what she's good at, and she's great at it. Same thing with Jennifer Coolidge. Jennifer Coolidge is one of those people who has a lane, she sticks to it, but she's always good in everything that she's in. Oliver Platt is a joy in everything ever. He was great in Lake Placid, and that's because it's Lake Placid, and he's great in it. So that's my rapid fire list. I also had Stephen Root and Tom Wilkinson, CJ. So congratulations, you overlapped with me.
Josh, just you and I have to agree. There were so many West Wingers in that quick fire.
That's the thing is that I do have Stephen Root and Tom Wilkinson and Oliver Platt on my list. But I'm going to go, and Sam Rockwell. So I don't have to say any of those, which is nice. Mark Strong, always great, always fucking fantastic. And I got to tell you, like, when he's singing at the end of the movie, I'm like, I'm going to get teary at the end of Kingsman. It doesn't make sense. James Spader. Just great. All the
Ultron.
time, great.
Yes.
Yeah, Ultron, yeah.
He's just cigar smoke voice by now. He's just got that really cool.
He's great.
And,
I love Stargate, too.
Yeah, and because it's my topic, I'm firing off 3 more.
You know what? Plus 1 for your gumption. There you go.
Yeah, Willem Dafoe. I don't really have to say any more than Willem Dafoe. Everybody knows. Joey Pants. I love Joey Pants. Put him in whatever, but like, I mean, he's funny. He's dramatic. He can be violent. He can be deranged. Joe Pantoliano is spectacular, and I hate having to pick between these two. William H. Macy over Steve Buscemi.
Steve was on my list too.
William H. Macy. I'm like it doesn't, whether he's murdering his cheating wife and then killing himself, or whether he's
The shoveler?
No, that was the Boogie Nights reference. And this one is also Fargo. But when I think about him, like the movie that I think about him really stealing the show is The Cooler. Like
I've never seen it, but he looks very good.
He was so good in The Cooler. I got a lot of respect for his game. It's really solid, and I've never watched an episode of Shameless because I'm sure he plays the most scummy scumbag. He does, and I've seen a handful of episodes of Shameless. He is the scummiest scumbag, and yeah,
it's tough to watch for him. The rest of the cast is great because it's all about like this family rising above that stuff. But I mean, it's a good show. You mentioned William H. Macy. I think of Mystery Men. I think of the Shoveler. I'm the shoveler. I shovel things.
Yeah.
And actually, stream of consciousness here leads me to something that I saw this week. I was scrolling through TikTok, as you do if you're cool, and was watching. There was this interview with Dane Cook. And I don't know if you remember Mystery Men a lot. It's a great movie. It's hilarious. Yeah. It's very tongue in cheek. I always thought it was hilarious. But there's that scene where they're interviewing people for their super team, and Dane Cook comes up as the waffler, right? He's got this waffle iron in his hand. He's got griddle marks on his shirt, and he's got like syrup in his belt. And this was the funniest story. Dane Cook was telling the story. He's like, okay, they called him and they were like, okay, you're going to have this cameo. We have a name for you. It's called he's the waffler. And he's like, oh, okay. And he like went overboard. He made that all himself. He took a shirt and he plugged in he did all of it himself. He shows up to set and they go, what the fuck are you doing? And he's like, you told me I'm the waffler. I'm the waffler.
Yeah, that means you're wishy-washy about stuff.
Make a decision. Like you're going back and forth. And he's like, oh, well, this is funny.
They were like, no, this is way better.
Way better.
If anybody asked, we wrote the role that way.
Yeah, right.
That's what's happening.
So I thought that was a funny story.
Oh, that's really fucking great.
That's really good.
And a very Dane Cook thing to do. And also, doesn't he look like an angry middle-aged woman now?
Well, I mean, from everything from his brother robbing him to all that stuff, time has not been kind.
Look, I get it, but I'm watching him on TikTok, and I'm like, Dane Cook. I mean, I don't know. Use a filter. Do something.
Look at Steven Tyler too. You're like, I don't know what
Tyler's
happened.
137 years old.
Joshua, I'm going to give you a total of 3 more points for that topic. That was a wonderful topic, and it made me dig into the recesses of my IMDb brain, which I do always love.
I feel vindicated.
All righty. So, gentlemen, I have a topic, and it started with me. I went to the movies this week. Probably the last movie I'm going to get to see in a very long time. My wife and I are huge Jurassic Park fans. And so we went to see the newest Jurassic Park Dominion in the theater a week before the baby's supposed to be born. So probably going to be the last thing we see in the theater for a while, right? And not here to talk about that. If you guys want to talk about it, I don't know if either of you have seen it. We can do that separately. But I was flipping through articles yesterday, thinking about what I wanted to talk about today. And I learned that back before Jurassic World was a thing, there was an approved script, approved by Steven Spielberg, for a Jurassic Park 4 that would have come out after the Jurassic Park 3. Have you guys heard of this script? because it is the craziest thing I have seen. Let me break this down for you. So this script was written by John Sayles, who's done movies such as Lone Star and Sunshine State. And essentially, the only character who was going to come back was John Hammond, who was played by Richard Attenborough. And it was going to follow a new character who he sends to Isla Nublar to get the shaving cream canister with all the dinosaur DNA that Nedry drops at the end of Jurassic Park. From there, he was going to get kidnapped and brought to some castle in the Alps, where we were going to find out that there are these people who are experimenting with human dog splicing DNA as well as human dinosaur hybrids. There was going to be this raptor man soldier with a gun fused to their arm that walked on two legs and was green, scaly skin, and it was going to be this guy trying to escape this castle in the Alps, where all these Island of Dr. Moreau machinations are going on. And this was going to be a thing. I don't remember why it got scrapped.
Because that was the idea.
Probably because that's
Right.
the idea, but it got me
Yes.
thinking, thank God this was scrapped, right? But there are so many movies that we hear about, things that were getting announced, things that are sold that start production or may not even get so far. And now they're just kind of urban legends in the movie community. And I wanted to ask you guys, do you have a favorite not made concept or movie that was, but fell apart at the last minute?
Yes, I'm going to explode if I don't go. So sorry, Josh, I'm jumping you. That is Superman Lives. That is the pinnacle of that for me. Which is, if you
Probably
don't
also
know,
the most notorious. I'm tempted to take away points for just making
so
the easy out.
obvious. Yes, it is the Tim Burton directed Superman movie starring none other than Nicolas Cage, which had a weird whole cycle to it. There's a wonderful documentary called "The Death of Superman Lives," where Kevin Smith will tell you the story way better than I ever could. But that is the movie that it still haunts Hollywood and still haunts Superman, because they had they've had multiple character tests where actors who we now know and love have worn this rejected Superman outfit as just like a screen test to see is this person worthy of Superman. So like the costume is still being used to this day to see, can this person be Superman? I would have given anything to see this. Nicolas Cage even named his son Kal-El, just based off his love of Superman.
Yeah, he is a huge Superman fan. And
I want to see this one so bad. That is the one that lives in my head of one day, an alternate reality, Doctor Strange multiverse life. That movie is out and being made and has sequels, and I want to see them.
I would argue that I don't think that movie would have sequels, but I respect where you're coming from, even though it's obvious. I too saw the documentary, and very interesting things were being done there.
Spiders.
Yeah, well, I mean, we saw how that worked out. So, I mean, if you actually listen to the story that Kevin Smith tells, and Kevin Smith being a huge comic book fan, had a very comic booky storyline, very much following Death and Return of Superman, even included a scene with Batman in it and things like that. And the producer at the time, whose name escapes me, really had some sort of obsession with giant spiders.
John Peters
was trying to force this idea of Superman fighting giant spiders in this film. Kevin Smith was not about that. He really did not understand where he's coming from. He dropped off the project. After the movie got scrubbed, the idea was that guy actually got his wish and put a giant spider in Wild Wild West.
Yes.
We know how well that movie did. But yes, I agree. I think that's the most notorious. Do I want to see it? No. I honestly think that movie lives on better not being made as the myth. I don't see Nicolas Cage as Superman. I know he has a huge affection for the character, And he's a brilliant actor. He really is. I just don't see him as Superman.
It would have only worked in the 90s, right? That would have been the only time that movie could come out, right? 90s Nicolas Cage, 90s Tim Burton, 90s Hollywood. It would have been great, but I guess we'll never know.
Mm-hmm. Josh, do you have one? You look like you're Googling stuff.
I am, man. And,
I can go if you need a couple minutes.
No, I honestly, there's, I can't think of anything. There's nothing that comes to mind. I can't think of any like great, Tarantino, just here's the thing. If I'd say any Kevin Smith project that got mothballed, like I would have wanted to watch that.
Yeah. So, which there have been many.
Yeah. But like nothing that I can say ever made it, out of like, early concept or production.
I remember a few years back, Kevin Smith talking about Mallrats 2.
Whether that was actually a thing.
He has the script written. In fact, I think they're trying to bring it back. And
like, I guess for me, it'd be like a Kill Bill Volume 3. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like that.
I think I may have something for you, Josh. I don't know if you heard about it, but there was supposed to be a Sons of Anarchy prequel that was supposed to be done, and there were plans like that. Not your cup of tea. I just know you love Sons of Anarchy.
Well, no, the thing is that Sons of Anarchy for me is about Charlie Hunnam. It's not like I don't give a shit what happened with John Teller. I care about Jax Teller.
Okay.
So, that story, began and ran and ended, and that was it. That was fine. Okay. Right. So there's not like a, I want more, I want more Tony Soprano. I want more Deadwood. All that stuff is, these are all pipe dreams. I want 5 more seasons of The Wire, like, but The Wire, you know what I mean? I want John Bernthal as the Punisher for all time. I just, these are all of these things, right? Can I get them? I don't know. Right. And I can't say that any of these projects were ever actually projects. So just, I have to be, unfortunately, pretty kind of vague about it, because I don't have like this didn't get made. Like, it's just, I have things that I wish for, but like, here's why I'm not a studio exec, right?
Josh, I admire your honesty, and I admire the fact that you changed my question to television. So plus 2 points for you. CJ, I'll give you 5 for your discussion on Death of Superman Returns.
I appreciate the 5. I also would like to point out that, as we talked about last week, Josh, where we don't know the scale of points, again, this game's going to be crazy. It's going to be sporadic, right? 1 point right now, that's actually a big deal in this game for this episode. So I am curious to see how they'll.
I will not let you know where you currently stand. I'm just going to tell you. I'm keeping track.
Good.
You will not
I don't need to know now.
stand.
I want to know at the end, right? And then in the editing, me will be like, oh, make sure to keep the points in.
Let me just say this. Your reaction to what I'm going to talk about for my favorite not made film that I would still have really been interested to see may or make or break this competition for you. Just saying. So I don't know if any of you have heard of this, but back in 2007, we were going to get a Justice League movie. It was called Justice League Mortal.
George Miller, right?
Yep. Justice League Mortal is supposed to be directed by George Miller, who we all know from Mad Max and Mad Max Fury Road. Man knows how to direct an action film. It was going to have Armie Hammer as Bruce Wayne Batman, Megan Gale as Wonder Woman, DJ Cotrona as Superman, Adam Brody as the Flash.
I don't hate that.
I loved that, actually. Jay Baruchel as Maxwell Lord. It was going to have Common as John Stewart. It was going to have Anton Yelchin as Wally West. This film was stacked. And back in 2007, we didn't know Armie Hammer was a cannibal, allegedly.
Right.
So this was a good pick. And you had a strong director. And the reason I'm so interested in this film is because this... If there was one different decision made, this movie would have changed the entire course of what DC is doing right now and what Warner Brothers is doing with their DC properties right now.
2007, they would have been ahead.
They would have been ahead.
They would have been ahead of Marvel.
They would have had a jump start on this whole superhero regime, right? Iron Man came out in 2008, but what had happened was filming was supposed to start in Australia, but Warner Brothers announced that the film was on an indefinite hold. They delayed it multiple times. Sound like anything you know? They delayed it multiple times and then eventually said, you know what? We're not going to do this. Instead, we're going to, and by this time it's 2009.
Right.
They said, instead, we're going to do single character stories like Marvel's doing. We all know how that worked out. Because they didn't do single character stories. They did a Superman movie, and then they jumped right back into a shittier Justice League. But this is
it's gotta make you think that had the right decision been made, right? Had this been released, right? Would Marvel then have rushed to do the ensemble movie before setting it up properly?
Right, and this is why it's so interesting to me. And the other reason that I would have loved to see this movie. I listened to a podcast years ago with Adam Brody. He talked about this film. He got as far as they had suits, just like Nick Cage, right?
Oh,
they
I want to see those.
Shot him in the suits. He was doing fittings. He had a script, and he talked about the scene in the script, which you want to talk about. Forget about who plays him. You want to talk about that bullshit Flash enters the Speed Force scene in Justice League, in Zack Snyder's Justice League. He talked about the scene where Flash, Barry Allen, was supposed to enter the Speed Force in this film and plays very differently. And it's so emotional because he was talking about how it was going to be much like what you saw in Justice League. Like, you know, odds are stacked in their favor. Like, Flash was going to be the solution. He needed to do this, and he knew he wasn't going to make it out. Like the script pretty much was going to kill Barry Allen in this film and pass the Flash off to Anton Yelchin. And so before he does it, he goes in the Speed Force time. He runs home and says goodbye to Iris in a couple split seconds. She barely knows he's there, and then goes and dies to save the world. And I'm like, that's a climax. I want to see that. It sounded really interesting, and I don't know why, even if we wanted to, like, I don't know why we didn't take pieces of this script for the 2017 Justice League, but it sounded great. And yeah, to Josh's point, right? Like, this could have changed the history of these superhero films the way we know them, of Marvel versus DC the way
frankly,
100%.
of movies in general.
Right. I was going to say, you would have impacted the career of Zack Snyder, right? So you wouldn't get Sucker Punch or not getting any of this Justice League stuff. I don't even know if do you get 300? Was Snyder 300 back then?
You're going down the wrong
rabbit hole.
No. I'm saying there's a you're talking about a cascading waterfall of things that would happen.
Yeah, all right, fine, but you're just that's not that. Like,
that is a ripple.
That's
I'm just
not
saying.
the big career.
No, it's not. But I'm saying that is a ripple.
Yes, a very small. It's very small.
Josh, 1 point for pointing out CJ's wrong about his ripple.
Look,
I'm not saying
think,
this is the massive tidal wave that takes out the entertainment industry as we know it.
No, look, that's a really good one. It's a shame for sure. And I know that I read about that. I obviously not the ins and outs of it, but I read that there was a George Miller Justice League. I did not know it was Adam Brody. Which, makes me think, if you guys haven't watched his little, I don't know if it's Netflix or whatever, but the show's called Startup. To check that out, it's pretty good. But I don't know, man, it just makes me sad. like an actual, because George Miller knows how to do sad.
Yeah. He knows how to do action too,
without compromising the thrill of the action flick.
Happy Feet gets me every time.
I'm really thinking about Fury Road here.
I know.
But look, I don't want to be sad about it. And that's what's going to happen, because it does. It potentially could have changed everything, which is, Warner Brothers. How many times though can a company kick themselves?
That's what I'm saying. This is Warner Brothers continuing the trend that we talked about last week of just probably looking at a spreadsheet and not looking at art.
Not continuing. It's started.
Is this what started the whole trend? It can't be, right? They had to have made some giant mistake before that.
Listen.
Warner
Brothers has been making mistakes for years.
You can probably make the argument that Batman and Robin was a terrible mistake as well, and Superman 3 and 4 probably not the best ideas either.
I didn't hate,
but I mean, every studio has bad decisions, right?
Sure.
And I view those. I view those films as, all right, you screwed up here, but then you made good. You made Batman Begins. You made Superman Returns, right? You did good stuff afterwards. Whereas what we're currently seeing now, which I would argue started with this decision not to move forward with this movie, is bad decision after bad decision after bad decision, and an entire collapse of what could have potentially been a multi-billion-dollar franchise, which is still a multi-billion-dollar franchise, but just not as good as it could have been. It's a shame, and I'm very interested. Like, I would love a documentary like we got for Superman Lives for this film. I would love to know what happened. But yeah, so with that being said,
how far did this get? I know you said costumes and stuff, but I mean, like, did they shoot a frame?
So like, they did not shoot a frame, but they had everybody in Australia ready to shoot.
Oh man!
Like, the interview I listened to with Adam Brody, he talked about being in Australia multiple times because they kept on delaying it. They were there, like, they just had to turn the cameras on, It's a low down dirty shame, and Josh, you get 3 more points for agreeing with me.
And not bringing up Zack Snyder.
Exactly. CJ, I give you 1 point for bringing up Zack Snyder.
There's no need for the one.
But you get no points for not remembering when 300 came out. So,
can someone just tell me when did 300 come out? By the way, when
300 came out in 2006.
Oh, okay. So he was already in the mix.
Yes.
All right.
Anyway, so that being said, it is time, gentlemen.
Oh, yes.
Those are our topics. Does anybody have anything they want to add or say to possibly gain more points out of me, the harshest of judge?
No.
Feeling pretty strong about that, CJ, aren't you?
Oh, no, I just know I would hurt myself rather than help myself, so I'll be quiet.
Oh, well, plus 1 point for recognizing that. Anyway. So, I will do the addition. Let me tally these points here. CJ, you can edit in an Abacus calculator adding machine.
I'm going to have the finest sound for that now, just so you're aware. I'm going to go on YouTube, like royalty-free Abacus sounds.
So, if you care to have a drum roll, you may enter it here.
God damn you. If I was judging -5 for making me look up sounds.
-2 more.
No.
I'm the judge. I hold the power of the points this week. And this week it was such a tight race. And I feel like we both brought a lot to the table. You both had some nice points and some fun zingers and some, currying favor, which we always appreciate bribery. But in the end, there can only be one winner. CJ, you ended with 16 points. Which is very admirable. But Josh wins with 18. So congratulations, Josh. And birthday present to you. You get to host next week.
All right. Hosting.
Huzzah.
Huzzah.
Huzzah, huzzah.
Alrighty. So with that in the books, I hope you enjoyed this conversation that we had today, young and old listeners. And thank you for listening to us. Most likely while you're cleaning the house, doing yard work, whatever it is you do, we appreciate you. And we will see you back here again next week.
Well, welcome to the club, 'cause you are that kind of nerd.